Michael Jordan can never be the best player of all time because LeBron James did not have his father in his life. Now, the reason I bring this up is not just because it's a basketball topic or an NBA topic. I know it doesn't really make any sense, but let me explain. Michael Jordan is not the greatest player of all time. It's actually LeBron James. And me personally, I love basketball. I like watching basketball. I like the dynamics of it, the impact, the influences of the teams and all that. And honestly, in reality, how much it has to do with influences on what we can do within our lifetime as well, just as people. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of artistic metaphors on just watching the game of basketball and what you can bring to life. Like work ethic, how much you can influence people, uplifting people around you to make them do better. And there's a lot of ways that you can learn leadership skills just from watching the game of basketball. Now, I'm not encouraging nobody to watch basketball. I'm just saying there's things that you can learn from all aspects of life. And that's why I like watching the game. Going into that, LeBron James is the greatest player of all time because he did not have his father in his life. To give you a little bit of background, LeBron James was raised by his mother named Gloria Mary James, who had him as a teenager in high school with his father. Unfortunately, LeBron James' father was never in his life and unfortunately was a deadbeat. And there's a lot of rumors and speculations on who his father is, but we know one thing for sure. He wasn't in his life, and he still isn't in his life today. And I could guarantee you, it don't matter how much money LeBron James makes in his life, he would still want to see his father to this day. Now, we can go into the statistics between him and Michael Jordan and their accolades and how they've influenced their teams, but him not having his father in his life makes him the greatest player ever. When you look at relatively the top 5 best players to ever play the game of basketball, you have people like Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of course, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, and then you have people even potentially like Kobe Bryant. But then you got one that sticks out of all of them, LeBron James. And what do I mean by that? LeBron James is, out of all those players I just named, the only one who's never actually had his father in his life to guide him and to push him to be the athlete in which we know him today, or even the man in which we know him today as. Kobe Bryant, he had his father in his life. Raised him up, taught him to play basketball. Although they had their downfalls throughout his NBA career, he did have his father in his life to help build him up as the man. Michael Jordan as well had his father in his life. Magic Johnson had his father in his life. And although Shaq did not have his biological father in his life, he did have his stepfather who helped raise him and even put him in military school when he was young. Same with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he also had his father in his life. But LeBron James is the only one who did not, and look how much he's accomplished as an NBA player. And a lot of those players that I just named have the quote-unquote killer's mentality. The mentality of being a savage, taking over a basketball game and taking the game-winning shots. When we look at LeBron James and say, oh, he passes the ball, he's too passive, he's soft, he doesn't have that killer mentality. Well, maybe it's because he didn't have his father in his life. Because remember, it is a mentality. And when you don't have your dad in your life, a lot of different aspects of your life changes. How you operate, what you do when it really matters at the end of the day, how you interact with your teammates, your leadership abilities. All of that matters. But what we have to take into consideration is that LeBron James is the greatest player ever because he did not have his father in his life. And also, even when you look in any aspect of life, your father impacts you in a lot of different ways. A lot of people who are raised by their father, even in the black community, for example, always have more common sense as opposed to people who are usually raised with their mother. Now, that's not always, but 9 out of 10 times you usually see people with common sense and not going to prisons killing these brothers are usually 9 times out of 10 raised by their fathers or both their parents, and usually not by their mothers. And LeBron James made it through all those high ups and downs, and now you see him in these positions today. What we have to understand is our parents, especially our fathers, have a large impact on our childhood. They have a large impact on how we operate. They have a large impact on how we end up making the choices we do in our lives. Although we look at LeBron James as soft, this man who doesn't take care of business at the end of games, he has done a lot of good things. Like, for example, although he doesn't own the school, he has opened up the school and does some good things for his community. You know what I'm saying? And he's actually helping build up a community, as opposed to a lot of these other athletes we're seeing. For example, like Michael Jordan, who hasn't really done as much for the community as he possibly could. And I mean, it's our job as the so-called Black and Hispanic men to make sure we are fathering our children and we are there for our families. Because if we're not there for our families, a lot of these children are being impacted who are not physical specimens like LeBron James, 6'8", 250 pounds, who can't go to the league. But a lot of these men who don't have fathers in their lives and don't have the option to have fathers in their life, just know that at the end of the day, it's all a mentality. And we have to be strong enough to keep pushing forward through the accolades, through the difficulty of times we have, and just make sure that we always keep a right track mind. So what we have to take into consideration is people's upbringing and how they became the man they are today. And I understand, you cannot make Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Shaquille O'Neal or any of these other individuals not have their fathers in their lives, but you have to put into perspective on how people was groomed and raised throughout their whole life and groomed and raised in this league to become a person on who they are today. And why I bring this up and why this is actually on a channel for our people is because what I want y'all to understand is we need our Black fathers in our lives. We need our Black fathers to be there for our children. We need our Black fathers to be there for our families. I guarantee you, it doesn't matter how much money you make in your life, you would always want to have that father figure to be able to support you. Well, LeBron James, thank you for being a great role model, but also, hopefully nobody wants to follow in your footsteps and be an athletic freak of nature like you unless they're 6'8", 250 pounds. People need to stop trying to be basketball players. But the reason I bring this out is for us to understand the importance of Black fathers, a Black foundation, and to realize and give you a perspective on why LeBron James is the greatest NBA player to ever live.